Okay, good. Good morning to le monde. I was speaking French, so that's the word comes to my mouth. I'm sorry. Um, Good morning, and it's a good day today, as we said. Today is we can put together ideas and reflection because we are going to finish the mini report, and then also the fact sheet. We are going to talk after that presentation how we can select ideas for the fact sheet, of course, the principle and everything, but we'll talk more about it, what's relevant for us, what we are doing. Um, and could you, Kimberly, could you tell us about you? I don't know. Is it your first time? Yeah.
I do believe I logged on last month.
Oh,
I'm
really?
calling in from Las Vegas.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Um, c Calling in from Las Vegas. I work for a company called Renew Oil of America.
Yes. So,
We handle almost all properties, like on the Las Vegas Strip. We handle all of their recycling. We do oil filtration for most properties, asset reclamations, and donations.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sophia, she did the presentation too, uh, and then she sent us a summary. That's nice. Okay, thank you. And 775-600-5915. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Now, yes. Who?
Okay. It's Alexia. Like I said, I'm having some problems up here because
Okay,
the weather
excellent.
is pretty severe. I had to call in, sorry.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Okay. Let's just, is there anything we'll tell something new thing? No? Okay. Okay, Doug, it's yours now, from now.
Excellent. All right. Well, I will go ahead and share my screen. And I just have a quick PowerPoint presentation and then can certainly answer any questions anybody has, but this will be just a short introduction to who we are. Let me see if I can have some success here. I have not shared on Teams before, so tell me when you see my screen.
Yep, we can see your screen.
Oh, lovely. That's great. Well, that was painless. Yeah, so our full name is, it's a mouthful. We're American Battery Technology Company. And the point was being is trying to have who we are in the actual name. We are a battery company in that we recycle lithium ion batteries. We use advanced and next gen technology. We are traded currently on the market on the over-the-counter stock trading circuit, but we are looking to uplist to the Nasdaq probably in the next 6 months or so. Just a quick overview: we are basically a reclamation and manufacturing company. And we are stepping towards commercialization in 3 areas. The first one being lithium-ion battery recycling. The second being primary metals resource development. And I have to smile because in today's, I mean, it makes sense. This is actually mining, right? Euphemisms are used, but basically it's direct primary extraction of resources. But the point being here is that we want to do it with the latest technology that causes the littlest disturbance with no air emissions, no water emissions, no and lesser impact. Now, of course, mining is still the movement of dirt. There's no getting around that. But the dirt that is replaced is non-toxic. It doesn't have additional tailings or things of that sort. So we can restore, and we'll end up restoring the area extensively once we have completed our work. And then the final is primary metals extraction, which goes hands in hand with resource development. Um, and that's the actual taking of the ore and extracting the critical minerals necessary for the electrification of the economy. So the building of batteries and other items within the economy. So we just recently have increased, we have labs at the University of Nevada, Reno, and we just recently increased the number of labs from 2 to 5 labs on campus. We also have increased our research and development team fivefold in 2022. And one of the nice things in our collaboration with UNR is that we also contribute to their mining and battery recycling majors and minors. So some of our technicians and our chemical engineers contribute to their curriculum. We guest speak, and we also hire from their graduates. We've hired now, I think, 3 graduates recently from UNR, which is great. We love to keep that local. We are a local company. We want to, support our local labor pool, and it's also great. UNR does a wonderful job training people in exactly what we need them for. Let's see. So first, let's talk about our first vertical, which is actually lithium-ion battery recycling. We are currently building a plant in Fernley, Nevada, which is 30 miles southeast of us here in Reno. We're in the process of bringing in machinery at this very moment and commissioning it. We are also in the final stages of our permitting process with NDEP, and it's getting very exciting. The business development side has been madly stockpiling spent battery feedstock as much as possible. It's become a very competitive market, as you might imagine, with the rise in the movement of recycling. Our plant will process, when it's at full tilt, it will process 20,000 metric tons of feedstock per year, which, even though it's a pilot plant, will put us in the upper echelons of material processed in the country. Obviously, this is, I think, the best way to produce battery minerals and this, it pertains directly to our group, is that it contributes directly to the circular economy. It's bringing these metals that have already been used and putting them back into the cycle to create new batteries. And the wonderful thing about these metals, cobalt, manganese, lithium, and nickel, is that they can be recycled endlessly. They do not break down in the process. They always retain their agency. So they can be recycled over and over and over for forever, which also appeals to me. And then, of course, plainly speaking, any recycling that we do takes pressure off any new resources we need to extract. So we have also greatly increased our engineering and operations team there. We have been hiring the best and the brightest. Our CEO, let's see, is that, did somebody raise their hand, or is there a question?
No, it was just somebody being admitted in.
Oh, okay, great. Our CEO is a senior engineer from Tesla, and in his work at Tesla, he learned not only to manufacture batteries, but how to demanufacture them. And the process we use is hydrometallurgical in basis. So we use water and we use acids to leach. First, we grind the batteries up, we deconstruct them, take all the plastic and all the other metals out, and then we grind them up. We use water and acid to leach out the materials, which makes something called black mass, which is a stage 1 of this mineral processing. And that black mass, we will then soon after create a stage 2 in which we refine it down to cathode grade battery metal. The nice thing about this is that all the acids and water that we use on site, we are building also a water reclamation plant on site. So we will be using that material in a circular fashion, as we will reprocess the water we use, thereby not drawing off the local aquifers and really trying to be as water conscious as possible. Let's see. Next, last year was a great year for us. We have had previous grants from the Department of Energy and working in partnership with Ford, General Motors, Stellantis. But in 2022, we received two more grants. One, a $10 million grant to further develop our next-gen battery recycling technologies, and then a $57 million grant to develop an extraction plant out in Tonopah, Nevada, where we have our mining claims. Our CEO got to meet in a panel with President Biden, nationally televised. It was very exciting. President Biden asked him several direct questions. It was fun to watch, but also a great milestone for us. And this leads to that grant directly contributed to our Tonopah Flats lithium project. And currently, we have just completed our exploratory drilling program, and then we brought in a third-party company to assess what the resource was there in Nevada. And we just released today, in fact, towards the end, I'll show you a title of an article that just came out today, is that we've released that inferred resource report. It is one of the largest deposits of lithium in the country. Right here in Nevada, we have several of them, and ours in the Big Smoky Valley, just outside of Tonopah, is now confirmed by third-party sources to be one of the largest. So in our process, as I mentioned, we've finished our drilling programs. The inferred resource report, this needs to be updated. That little red line needs to go right past that box. This is going to be a busy day for us. We're being contacted by a lot of press agencies just to talk about this report. To begin our EPA studies. There's a whole host of studies. There's probably 25 different EPA studies that we need to complete and then submit to the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection and the Bureau of Land Management. And this is a process we take very seriously. It's extensive and expensive, but it's necessary. We do not want to shortcut any steps. We are in the process of lobbying for streamlined timelines, but we're not advocating for any of these steps to be taken out, just that the timeline for processing and permitting be shortened, just so we can bring these resources online in a faster, more efficient way. Finally, I did have kind of a fun update video. It's only about 1:50, but I don't know if the sound will come through. So it's kind of hard just to watch silence for 2 minutes. So if the sound doesn't come through, tell me and we'll move on. But is everybody amenable to a quick video update? Yes, no?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep, you guys are nice. Can you hear sound?
No.
No sound? Okay, I will take it off. I'll send it to you. I couldn't send it along to you, Aster, just because it was too big a file. But the last thing I'll show you is this inferred resource report. This has just come out in the news today. Very exciting for us. We've been waiting for it for months and months. And we're based right here in Reno. Our headquarters is right downtown, and then we have property out in Fernley. We have property down in Tonopah, and the biggest part of this is really the circular aspect of our business, and we're a huge believer in that whole cycle. And in our recycling process, especially, we can take material from any stage in the process of developing batteries. We can take them from battery scrap. We can take them from spent batteries. We can take them from primary resources and then keep those resources moving through the cycle. So that's it. I wanted to keep it short and sweet. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you go to the first or the second slide, please?
Of course.
This one.
Let's see.
Second.
Let's go to the beginning. This one here.
Yeah. So I'm very excited, really. It's my interest too. We have lots of Western, because of the technology we are in, we are growing and changing. We the batteries we use, and then the solar panel example we use, and then all is become a toxic after some times if we don't develop technology and recycle them or reuse them. So it's a very good, and I heard about this before they finished it. Okay, so if explain to me if I understood clearly, because this is where I will when we write, we go through. Did you see this something?
Mhm.
Okay, so we start in sourcing impact, through life impact, after use impact, all is a negative externality, how we explain a circular economy through this stage. So if I understood this, the first one is already used battery recycling. You do the collection, and could you explain to me what is the process, how do you collect them, and how all that? The second is, I'm sorry, I didn't put it on my okay, work, sorry, work,
That's
work.
okay.
Okay, so the second, it looks like sourcing impact from the beginning. You will do something. So could you, this is the primary metal resource development, or the third one, also primary metal extraction. It is very interesting because from the beginning, your company starting pay attention of the extraction of the metal. It is needed. So the first one is
That's
you
correct.
obtain the
So
batteries.
that
Okay,
second
and
part,
then
the question is,
why is this? Okay, I can't.
I can start and answer the first question if
Yeah,
you like,
yes,
and then
exactly. I
let's read.
put something.
Okay, yeah, and then I'll then maybe I'll ask for the second question just to make sure I understand that I'm answering it correctly. First part is how to collect this material. Um, because it is finally seen as a valuable resource. Obviously, before, lithium-ion batteries were a huge problem because there was no recycling industry set up, and it's still fairly nascent. But we now have some larger players, and we are hoping to be one of those larger players. Right now, we're relatively small, but these batteries were all going into landfill. There was a small percentage that was going into second life applications, of which I am a huge fan, because many of the batteries that come out of electric vehicles, for example, have still 70 to 80% of their original power potential. They just don't have full strength to be able to power a car, but they do have an immense amount of energy still in them. And so I'm a big advocate of Second Life, using them for battery storage, for utilities and that type of thing, and then them coming to us to be recycled. But we go out to automotive OEMs, we go to aggregators, we go to waste facilities, many of whom are collecting lithium ion batteries, but don't know exactly what to do with them yet. And also, as you've probably read, they are very hazardous to store. Their power potential is so high that any type of disturbance to the battery, any puncture, any damage can cause battery fires. And I think last year there was like 195 lithium ion battery fires. And in this year alone, and that's in transportation and at waste facilities. And I think there's many more that are unreported. So we are trying to pull these batteries out of all these collection places and bring them into our warehouse and process them as quickly and as safely as possible. But there's so much potential locked up in these batteries. These critical minerals have now made it a commodity in itself, whereas just a year ago, people had to pay us to recycle batteries, called a tipping fee. But now, just in the last 6 months, I was buying spent batteries at about 30 cents a pound, and now the market is fluctuating between 80 and $1.10 per pound. Um, and that's partly demand and partly the fact that there is so much money coming from recent legislation like the IRA and the Biden infrastructure law. Huge amounts of money being pumped into the industry, both on the battery manufacturing side and the recycling side. So we are scouring the country for every waste facility that we can find to find out what they're storing, how they have it, what the chemistries are, and then how we could bring them to our warehouses. So that's the answer to your first question, unless I think that answers it. And then the second one asked her, could you repeat it just to make sure I understood?
Could you return back the slide? It
Sure.
just disappeared.
Or
I
we're
can't
still,
find. It's okay.
is there a different slide?
No, I will go there. I have here. You know, the second is, if I understood it, one, let me see it in my screen. One is the first, what you explained, you collected it, you recycle it. And then there would be a leftover, some toxic or other, you will tell us how to discard that too, so. The second is the primary metal extraction. What is the role of your organization to focus on reducing the material extraction that is beneficial compared to what they have done before? There's some technologies, some know-how better than before. Could you explain that? And then I will ask you at the end, this just a data for the report. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. There are two parts to this that are advantageous. The first one is geological, in the fact that the lithium is all fairly close to the surface, uh, within 80 feet of the surface, which for mining is very close. And so this mining project would not be the classic pit mine, and we're not going to be strip mining, much like gold and silver had in the past. So we don't have to remove incredibly huge volumes of material to obtain the ore that we're looking for, which is very helpful. And then the other part is that the area in which we have this land, and of course, we're actually launching probably this week our first raptor study, which is hiring a helicopter, actually a series of helicopters to go through and count the raptor population and make sure that we're aware of it, where it is, and then making sure that we mitigate any kind of disturbance. But our area is, from initial surveys, there is very little. We haven't discovered any endangered species just yet, and we're going to keep looking. But so far, it's looking like the regular sagebrush of that area, things that can be easily replanted. And then when we're taking the material out, our process does not leave residue or toxins in the earth, so we'll be able to replace it and then recondition it and provide, to restore the land once we're done. As I mentioned, we recycle any type of liquids that we use. We don't burn things. One of the common ways to extract or to recycle used to be using smelting in the process, and we don't do that. So there's no air emissions that take place. And the next generation mining techniques, such as using electric machinery and using renewable energy on site, are ways in which we can also mitigate the impact. And then the positive part is that both our recycling plant and our extraction efforts are in areas that historically are underemployed, and we'll be pulling from the local population in a large number of permanent, temporary jobs as we set the project up, and then permanent jobs as we get the plant running and we get the extraction process underway. Tonopah has been very, very receptive to the whole extraction project. We've been working closely with their local officials and the BLM officials down there. And of course, we want to do it the right way. We have some very, very environmentally conscious people in this company. So we see the necessity of obtaining these minerals for the electrification of the economy, but we want to do it in as responsible a way as we can.
One of the main thing circular economy is to be able to make sure that it is a sustainable practices that we employ in a circular economy. We can have a circular economy and still damaging the environment and the community and other pollution, and can cause some pollution. This is a wonderful example. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But I need data. I'll talk to you about the data. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Of course.
Okay. Bye.
Any other questions out there?
It looks like Cassandra has her hand up.
Oh, I only see my screen. So yeah, thank you. Please.
Hi, yeah, thank you. So I hopped on a little bit late, so I apologize for this first question. So am I understanding correctly that you are doing recycling and extraction?
Yes, we have both verticals. So we're at the beginning of the process and at the end of the process. Of course, the recycling is much more in the circular aspect, is that, we're taking minerals that are already in the system, reprocessing them and resubmitting them for battery manufacture.
Okay, so I have a couple questions around that. So the first is, like for us, we advocate on mining reform. And, one of the things we see a lot is this forecast for mineral demand. But there have been a lot of recent reports that show that if we really focus our efforts onto different forms of mobility and reuse and circular economies, we don't really need as much extraction as proposed, including all the environmental and social damage that come with extraction. And so I guess I would just have a question on how much you kind of put your effort towards recycling versus extraction, and the path for that moving forward. And also, what you see in terms of design for recycling up front in batteries, and so kind of what you see and what is the current technology of batteries, how it makes it challenging to recycle, and what could be some benefits if there was some legislation around design for recycling up front. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Those are both excellent points. And so recycling was our initial foray into the industry, and it's been our main focus. The project in Tonopah is years away from actually ever moving any dirt whatsoever. There's many, many studies to be done. There's work with the community that needs to be completed. Those are all at the very beginning. And all we've done at this point is really verified that the resource is there, where it is, how much of it, and but there's a long road to actually beginning extraction. But in the meantime, our recycling process is months away. We hope to be coming online within the next 3 to 6 months, which we're very excited about, and then we'll begin processing a comparatively large amount of material. It's still a very nascent industry, especially here in the US. I mean, Europe is much further along. China is even further along than that, but they still use largely pyrometallurgical processes, which are, they're problematic as far as the environment goes. But this will be our main focus and our source of revenue for the foreseeable future. And if this if this proves out to be as successful as we hope it will be and think it will be, then our plan is, so we're processing, we will be processing 20,000 tons. We then want to immediately scale up to a commercial sized plant, which would be processing 100,000 tons of batteries. And that would be in anticipation of what I guess the common word has been the tsunami of used batteries that will be coming out of the electric vehicle um, industry. Once these, I mean, electric vehicles are still relatively young, so there's not that many batteries that are coming back. We're doing a lot of hybrid right now, but soon the full electric cars, those batteries will need to be replaced and recycled or used for second life. And by then, we hope to have this much larger plant to be able to process. Because you're right. I mean, ideally, as much of this as we can pull out of the existing system, that just takes pressure off the need for additional extraction. But if you're careful on the extraction side, I think if you're careful and conscientious and work closely um, with indigenous populations, with local communities, with everybody who is connected to those areas, we think that it can be done responsibly. It's more expensive to do responsibly, but that's a consequence of being responsible. And that is our goal. And it's the interactions have already begun, but we are still a long ways off from actually doing any kind of extraction. In the meantime, we'll be recycling like crazy. Oh, and then your second question, I'm sorry, was about legislation around or the recyclability of batteries, and that's something that we consult with. We do have partners at Ford, Stellantis, and we've worked with General Motors, and we have given input, technical input, as to how batteries could be more easily recycled. Now, luckily, our process is agnostic. We can take just about any battery, and when we recycle it, we're going to recycle the plastic, we're going to recycle the wires, the electrolytes, almost everything in the battery will be separated out and then sold in its various different waste avenues, which will, add as reclaimed. The plastics, surprisingly, now have quite a few places where we can approach with this recycled plastic material. But that is a place that we are advocating for actively, as to how to make these batteries more accessible and also less dangerous. And more they are coming out with more safety features in these batteries, because they're surprisingly volatile if not cared for in the right way. And the other thing that we're doing is we're working on safety programs. I've consulted with several different fire departments just to find out what safety procedures they have in place to handle lithium-ion batteries as they're being in cars and being moved around the country. And some have more procedures than others, but by and large, they're still looking for answers. First responders are looking for effective programs, so we're working with them, providing how a battery works and how it ignites and how it burns, to then find out better ways to combat or handle any kind of battery incident.
Yeah, thank you for those responses. So I guess I will just say a couple things. The first is, I hope also when you're thinking of like design, like how to use less energy and less acid in the process too, as those can be pretty impactful, as well as just making it easier. So also using less resources to have to break it down. So just kind of wanted to plug that in. And also just, yeah, I mean, I guess if we go down the proper path, I hope everyone has a chance to read the climate and community report that just came out, that looked at 3 different scenarios of mobility, or 3 different choices in mobility. And at the best scenario, we could decrease lithium demand extraction by 92%. So I guess the goal is to, hope that advocacy on the recycling side stays high, and so that, the lithium mining won't be needed. And so just voicing a little concern with the connection of those two. But thank you very much for this presentation. It was very insightful. Thank you.
Absolutely. And just one last comment. I think you bring up a really good point as well on the using of resources. I think next gen technologies in recycling um, are much more careful with resources, and one of them being the use of water. Water in Nevada is a very valuable commodity, and that's why we have a reclamation plant to be built on site. It's actually in the process, so we can only use one infusion of water and then use that water continually. And then the power, power is always an issue. And so we will be, our roof is actually, we're just finishing the proposal review for solar. So our entire 100,000 square foot building will be covered, the rooftop will be covered in solar to help provide the energy that we're going to use. We can't cover 100% of it yet, but we're trying to take a very sizable bite out of that, thereby reducing the load that we bring on NV Energy. And trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. Thank you for your questions or your statement. All right, I can take this off. Let's see if I can do this easily, quickly. Stop sharing and turn it back over to you. But thank you all for your time and attention.
Oh, sorry, Doug, this is Lakshmi. I had a question, quick question.
Yes, please.
First of all, thank you. I'm so glad that you guys are, you're considering all the different aspects of, extraction to recycling. This is very heartening news. I just wanted to ask, how much of the, I know, you're looking at the circular economy from your company point of view, but a lot of it has to do with, phone manufacturers or car manufacturers. They have to take into account how they collect back the lithium or whatever, the different kinds of batteries, materials. And then, of course, and making it available to you so you can recycle. How much of commitment, or have you seen as much, what's the, what's your experience been?
So that's a great question. And it really, maybe to the chagrin of our automotive OEM partners, we have been watching carefully the producer responsibility legislation that's happening across the country. And there are several states that are really taking a lead, California, of course, and Washington, New York, and a couple other areas where they're tasking the producers of these materials to then be responsible for their end of life program. And I think that is a necessary piece to make it easier for the consumer to know how to handle those resources. When you have a car, when I buy a car, I don't think about what happens to the car when I'm done. I usually donate it to a tax, situation, Cars for Kids or something like that. And I don't think about it any further. So there isn't someone to step in and say, okay, there's some resources in, there's scrap metal, of course, that's very simple, but there are a lot of components in a car, especially now, these electric cars, that are not tracked. And so producer responsibility legislation is one thing that we watch carefully. I'm the head of policy, so I'm constantly monitoring the progress there. And we certainly don't want to hinder automotive production, but at the same time, they are the logical ones to track that material and make sure that it has an end of life solution. So it gets to the correct places, because I hate to say it, but it's still a large percentage of these batteries and consumer batteries as well. We're talking about, tools, handheld tools and cell phones and laptops. All those batteries are batteries that we can recycle, but somebody has to track them. So not only that type of legislation, but there's also traceability on these batteries, not only from the big EVs, but to the small laptops. And starting a tracing program where, there are programs like a battery passport, where each battery has a barcode, and every time it passes through, whether it's a production or a retailer, that barcode is scanned, and that trail is then recorded. And somebody at the end, the producer then has to track where that material is and make sure that it ends up in a place where it's going to be disposed of in a environmentally friendly, but also in a industry advantageous manner. And so all those movements are gaining speed across the country, and I think that is the direction that we probably need to go.
Yeah, it's very concerning because especially when a lot of this lithium or whatever comes from, God knows, Bolivia or some other countries.
Argentina, yeah.
And whereas at least, I guess, there is a little bit more hope that there is more oversight in our country. So, but if the multinational companies are held responsible through this EPR things, perhaps there is hope.
That's right. I agree. You guys have been very kind. I feel like I've gotten more than my fair share of airtime here. So I'm happy to continue to answer any questions. Of course, it's fascinating to me, but I know we have other items on the agenda, and I want to make sure I step aside at some point.
Maybe you take the last one, John. John is
sure.
And then I need at least a few minutes for the last.
Yes, of course.
Question. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hello everybody. John Hatter with Great Basin Resource Watch. I'm sorry it was late. I had to restart my computer. Teams kind of sometimes can be very demanding on my laptop. I don't know, depends on other things that are running, but I apologize for missing part of it. But I did want to comment. It sounds like the discussion with the battery technology discussion is all around lithium. And I know that the drive for lithium is because of energy density, but it's not the greenest type of battery out there. And I think that there needs to, when we think about sustainability, green chemistry, there are other battery technologies that I think need more emphasis, especially for non-transit applications, where energy density is not as important or may not be the vital thing. And when I say green, I mean recyclability, use of toxic chemicals in the recycling process, extraction, the whole gamut. So I wanted to put that out there. I just feel like the emphasis on lithium batteries is clearly designed for passenger vehicles to get that gain. You can use non-lithium batteries in bus systems, and probably they'll satisfy the need there. So I just think that's where the emphasis is, and that actually does drive a lot of extraction. And you all were just talking about so potential due diligence of extraction. Well, it's not happening. Indigenous communities are getting run over. They don't, so it's not happening. So I think that we need to be mindful of the fact that the mechanism for communities that feel the front end of a non-circular economy, which is extraction, it's a slow-moving process for those communities to get free, prior, informed consent. Especially for Indigenous communities, to get for communities to have the full knowledge of what these extraction projects mean. So I think it's rose-colored glasses to think that the industry is going to act responsibly on the extraction side. Countries are not taking them into account, including our own. So I think for the purposes of thinking about a circular economy, we need to bear down on how we can really close the loop in terms of whether it's recyclability or demand. Because that's just our knowledge at Great Basin Resource Watch. We work with frontline communities here, but we're connected with peoples around the world, and it's so that's the situation that I understand it. Anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to get on my soapbox a little bit, and I'll shut up here.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you, Doug. It's an excellent presentation, and you draw attention. That's very good. The next step is, as you know, we are going to put together the mini report, and this report help us to introduce the circular economy principles and concepts, and then the activities they are in, we see in our own states. This is relevant because circular economy is the new economy system. And then circular economy, for all the discussion we have made, one thing is the leading element of the circular economy is innovation and technology. That will improve the less extraction, sourcing, and then a better recycling, reusing, remanufacturing of products. So I'm sorry. So we are going to play a greater role in this circular economy because we also support the department effort on material management instead of waste management. So this contribution in it, that is, we would like to reflect in the report. This is mini because the next one is very relevant. We call it the key stakeholders. We are going to contact companies and big companies, small companies and businesses to be part of it. And there are lots of discussion would be. So this will invite us, for example, you make it to happen, explaining what's happening in your organization in terms of a circular economy concepts and practices. This is like a preliminary research, what we do in research. So you help us you help the people, the public, to understand what's going on. This is the evidence in our state. This exists, this exists, this exists. So there are so many, I know, even in the mining industry, they are doing extraordinary work that we are going to, when we start stakeholders selection process, mapping, yes, stakeholders mapping, we are going to contact all these big people because we have a report, tangible things we can show off, show to the people. So that is very important. John, example, this is very important, the discussion. Cassandra, please send me a summary of what you are doing in your organization. It's relevant, it's different than others. Please do that. And the second is when we prepare the fact sheet. If you remember, we drew this, we did a sourcing impact through life impact, after use impact. So we put it in a framework. I love framework. We guide us not to jump here and there. So for each sourcing impact, for example, we have an example of Doug, your company, I forgot the name. So, and then through life impact, what's going on, and then after use impact, reusing, remanufacturing, recycling, everything through life impact, resharing, and something like that. So wherever the example we have, we plug it so that we have a concept to share with the public, so people, they can see it, what is circular economy, they can understand it and be able to attract to join us. The next stage is phase of this project is we need people. If not, we will stop. So it's very important to do it. So this is this is what I was thinking about. We have 10 minutes. This is yours. Tell me, and please, John and Cassandra, send me. I think everybody sent except so what the I don't know. There is somebody, I forgot your name. I'm sorry, because there's only phone numbers. So those of you, yeah, who didn't send me, please do it. It's very important. It's your contribution for this report. I only include the people they contribute in this. This is a collaborative team, best practices, which I adopted before, and then I will continue to adopt that. Thank you. This is for you, 10 minutes, please, 7 minutes. Share with me, and you can share with us, but you can share with me, send me data. Doug, I'm going to send you something, and you'll send me data and something. Okay, that's yours, the remaining of time. So about the report, about the fact sheets, and Sam, I would like to work with you. I like your organization, the way they presented the fact sheet. If you have anyone who share with me the fact sheet they have, we will adopt that. We don't have to recreate things or create things. So I will work with you so that we can anticipate to finish at the end of this year, this month. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw the report, and I've started to work on that
Okay.
adding that text there. So yeah, thanks for the reminder on that. I wasn't quite. We've been pretty busy with some other things, the legislature and so forth, so I hadn't had a chance to dig into that that process. But we'll work on that. I do think that the purpose here is to we're looking at early circular economy. So I feel like practices that move us away from extraction to close that loop, practices which avoid waste, close that loop are really important. Anyway, I'll talk about what we do. We're not a business, we're a nonprofit. We work with communities, but I think I've noticed something in the report already about public education. I think that's an important part. As part of it is something that we can do. But the fact of the matter is that anything that motivates extraction is antithetical to a circular economy. So that's kind of our position. And we're not going to get rid of extraction completely, but it's non-circular. So to me, that's the bottom line. So anyway, I'll work on that, get that to you.
Okay, knowledge, just sharing something. Circular economy is a process. It's depend on the technology, availability of technology and knowledge, innovation. That makes it the whole achieving the goal of circular economy. So,
well, I don't entirely agree with that. There are societies which are non-technological or they're very circular. So I don't think that we need technology to be circular. But I don't disagree that it has a role. But I mean, I'm just saying, there's more to it than that. In fact, those societies, some of them still exist today, are much more circular than we'll probably ever be.
a long time ago, yeah. I mean,
they still exist. Some of them still exist, and a lot of them are being pushed out of their lifestyles because of extraction. So this is a real issue that's happening around the world. There are communities that are, they live much more in a much more circular way, and they're being forced to move to a different lifestyle, which is much more consumptive and non-circular, and that's largely due to extraction. So, just our non-circular economy imposing on other communities. I mean, again, that's just our experience working with frontline communities. So,
okay. Economic growth, development is what brings. So it's true, but it's okay. This is a reality anyway. Okay, please. Is there any idea? Please send me any report you have, summary, how if you have a problem, how to link it or articulate it to within the context of circular economy. I'll do it. So I need only information and data from you, and then we will finish. And then I'll work with the group, and then I'll send you the draft. You go through things, and then and for a few people, I would like to work with them very closely. So that is the plan. We need to finish it. There is no another. I'm sorry. We need to explore the next phase, which is a little bit challenging. Would be okay. Is there anything?
I'll just say I'll have the link to the recording. So if because I know a few people jumped on late, so if they want to watch the recording, they'll be able to. But with that, it looks like we're at almost at the top of the hour.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for